Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nintendo Jab, and welcome to a new Pokemon Unite video. In this video, I wanted to go ahead and showcase a little bit of Zacian in the jungle. Now, ever since Zacian released in Unite, she has been one of my favorite Pokemon just because I know this may be a little bit controversial, but I actually really liked Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I really liked Zacian and Zamazenta. So as soon as Zacian was announced for Pokemon Unite, she instantly became one of my favorite Pokemon to play. I have noticed, at least according to like my own personal experience as well as some data over on Unite API, it seems like Zacian has been slowly kind of creeping down like less and less in terms of pick rate. However, Zacian's win rate has actually been pretty solid overall. Again, according to Unite API, it seems to be around somewhere like 52% or so. I'm not entirely sure how accurate these numbers are, but this is just using that source, of course. But yeah, for me, as someone who doesn't play jungle all that much, Zacian has always been one of my favorite picks in the jungle, and I wanted to go ahead and showcase exactly why in this video. I want to make it 100% clear. I'm not trying to say that, you know, like Zacian is the best jungler, or that my build in particular that I use is the best build for Zacian jungle or anything like that. I'm sure there are plenty of other viable builds and ways that you can play Zacian in the jungle, or even not in the jungle, that would be just as good. But yeah, again, I just really like Zacian, and I also like playing Zacian in the jungle. I feel like you have really good clear with the jungle camps and stuff, so you can get to ganking really quickly. As you can see in this video, I clear very fast, and I just immediately start heading to lanes to help them out and stuff like that, to start getting a little bit ahead in the game. And it's just really fun to play Zacian because she has such good wave clear. First of all, with Sacred Sword, you have that mobility with agility and stuff. And she just does massive damage, especially when you time those enhanced abilities at the right moment and stuff. She could just completely destroy someone really quickly if they're a little bit squishy and stuff. And again, just that, you know, wave clear and jungle clear and stuff, you can just quickly go back to farming, go back to ganking, go back to farming. It's just a really smooth process, especially for those that don't really play jungle all that much like myself. Now for items, I went ahead and used, of course, the Rusted Sword as well as Charging Charm and attack weight. Now the reason why I go with attack weight is because I do like to try and stack a little bit when I go ahead and gank some of these lanes, just to get a little bit of extra damage in that early game and stuff, make myself a little bit more of a threat. And then I actually choose Charging Charm just because I do like I just like the effects of it on Zacian. I don't know, maybe it's not the best, and maybe I'm kind of like throwing a little bit by not using another item, but I just like Charging Charm on Zacian. Like that's just my thing. But yeah, Zacian is just really fun to play in the jungle. I just feel like this is a Pokemon that makes jungling really simple, especially compared to some of these more complicated junglers like Zoroark, for example. That's one that I was never really able to learn. I definitely need to invest some more time into learning that Pokemon. But yeah, Zacian is just really fun, and I feel like Zacian, even though it is starting to be picked less and less with like a 5% pick rate overall, I feel like Zacian has always managed to stay viable and has always managed to stay pretty good and like above that 50% win rate, which I think is kind of like where you want to be at and stuff. I just really like Zacian. Again, I'm biased because I really liked Pokemon Sword and Shield. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, I really liked Pokemon, of course, growing up as a kid and stuff. I played all of the main games. I think I started off with like Pokemon Crystal on the Game Boy Color, and then eventually went all the way up to Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. And then that was where I stopped playing Pokemon, mainly because my DS actually broke as a kid, and we just couldn't afford to replace it or anything, so I just stopped playing Pokemon for many years. And it wasn't until I was a young adult, like 18-19 years old, that I was working and I finally had enough money to go ahead and buy a Nintendo Switch, and then that was when I was able to get back into Pokemon with Sword and Shield back in 2019. So for me, Pokemon Sword and Shield held a little bit of like I guess nostalgic value almost, because it was my reintroduction into the Pokemon series after many years away. And then of course, after I got into Sword and Shield, I eventually went and replayed all those Pokemon games that I missed. But yeah, Sword and Shield, because of that, even though I know it was a very controversial game in the Pokemon community and stuff, it means a lot to me, and I really did enjoy my time in Sword and Shield. And again, I really liked Zacian in that game. I really like Zamazenta too. I'm kind of surprised that Zamazenta hasn't been brought to Pokemon Unite yet. It would be really cool to see Zamazenta in Unite, and it would, especially as a defender. And then it would also be cool if it had some type of unique like interaction with Zacian. Maybe like their unites can somehow combine or something. I don't even know, but it would be really cool to see. But anyway, kind of getting off track a little bit there. But yeah, Zacian in the jungle in Pokemon Unite, definitely a very solid pick in my personal opinion. Again, especially if you're trying to learn the jungle role, or if you just happen to be like maybe everyone else takes the other roles and you just have to fill in as jungler. Again, I don't usually play in the jungle, but I feel like Zacian does make it very, I guess, simple or simpler to get into. And she's just good. Like, she's maintained this solid win rate for a reason. It's just her kit is good, her abilities are good, and just overall, if you know how to play her and you know how to take advantage of her kit and those enhanced auto attacks and stuff, you can honestly do so much damage, and you can even take on like 1, 2, or 3 people at the same time and still win. Now, just a couple of things that I would note, just some stuff that I noticed while I was playing this game, and also just in general from playing Zacian jungle. Some things that I think you do need to be a little bit careful of, though, are, for example, going up against really tanky Pokemon. Even with your enhanced Sacred Sword and then your normal Sacred Sword, a lot of times that won't be enough to take down a really tanky Pokemon. And then from there, they can just, once you're done with that, you're basically just auto attacking at that point. And they could potentially take you down really low. They can maybe even kill you. I think another thing that you also have to keep in mind is ranged Pokemon. Yes, agility does give you that little bit of dash and movement speed, but sometimes that isn't enough to actually get in melee range to certain ranged Pokemon, whether it be Cinderace or Decidueye or Inteleon or something like that. And you also have to remember they might be running a eject button or something, so they could potentially get away. And then you basically just get auto attacked down, basically. So you kind of have to be a little bit careful when it comes to some of these ranged Pokemon, because if they manage to keep the distance from you, and if your agility isn't enough to get into their face, you might just end up being auto attacked to death, and you obviously don't want that, so you just have to keep that in mind. Of course, another thing you always have to keep in mind is the Eos energy that you are currently holding. You cannot activate that enhanced agility or enhanced Sacred Sword, or if you happen to go with the other moves as well, you can't enhance any of your abilities unless you have, I believe the minimum is 8 Eos energy. And if you're using your ultimate is actually going to be weaker the less Eos energy you have. So you really have to keep that in mind, and that's one of the reasons why I think Attack Weight actually could potentially be a little bit of a bad item to run on Zacian, even though I'm running it in this video, because obviously Attack Weight is for stacking. You score and then you get a stack and then you get bonus attack damage and stuff, but the less Eos energy you currently have, the less, essentially the less damage you're going to do, right? You might not be able to do those enhanced abilities, and you may not be able to do the most damage with your ultimate. So that's something that you have to kind of keep in mind. It's something that I'm always looking at when I'm playing Zacian. I'm constantly farming, and I'm constantly looking for any Eos energy that's just scattered on the floor from someone that died, just because you need to constantly have a good supply of it. Otherwise, you're just not going to be, doing as much damage as possible. But yeah, those are just a couple of things that I think you need to keep in mind when playing Zacian jungle. It's not all, completely easy and like free wins or anything like that. There definitely are some downsides to playing someone like Zacian. In this game in particular, the ranged Pokemon that was giving me a lot of trouble was Delphox. It was just so annoying to deal with Delphox, just because with that fire spin, they could just constantly keep me, like, they just kept messing me up and just kept me away from them, and then she's just spamming abilities thrown at me and stuff, and it was kind of hard to kill her. But yeah, that's just something that you need to keep in mind. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Have you been playing Zacian? Will you be playing Zacian after this video? Definitely always look forward to reading your guys' comments, interacting with you guys. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't. We're getting super close to our first 1,000 subscribers. And yeah, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Hopefully you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.